Hi, I want to welcome you to Season 3, Episode 2 of Resilient Social Work Podcast, where we continue the conversation of returning to balance with Maria Lomeli. And it is a beautiful conversation, and I want you to maybe grab a pen and paper because we do talk about our journey into realizing and discovering the role that we play, okay, in our lives as fixers. Um, and we share questions about how we got there. Okay. How did we get to the realization that maybe that role wasn't serving us anymore? So maybe some of you are also going through that journey of self discovery and realizing that there are roles that you took on in your life that no longer serve you. So that's what this conversation is about. And I hope you enjoy it. Let us know in the comments if you are following us along and you are doing the work, okay, by sitting with yourself, sitting with your emotions. Let us know how it goes. And please be gentle with yourself as you navigate this conversation because it may bring up feelings, bring up questions for yourself, or maybe you really are going to start connecting some of the dots or connecting some of the patterns that you have also had in your life that may not fit you anymore. So as you navigate this process, know that it is a journey and that it is going to take gentleness and kindness and patience on your part, just like we did with ourselves, right? To be able to process it, okay? To be able to process it, to be able to validate it and to validate ourselves and connect with ourselves. So be gentle through this process, okay? And know that it is a journey. It's not something that changes overnight. So welcome to this conversation. Hi, everyone. Before we begin today's episode, I want to remind you that the content shared here is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional or mental health care. Also, that some of what we'll talk about may feel heavy or bring up strong emotions. So please take your time with it, breathe, and listen only as it feels right for you. You can pause, take a break, or step away if you need to. And if you ever feel overwhelmed, remember that you're not alone. And here in the US, you can call or text 988 anytime, day or night, or visit 988lifeline.org for free confidential support. Thank you for listening. Hi. Hi, everyone. We're back with Maria Lomeli. We are going to continue the talk of finding our balance and maybe sharing some part of our journey and what are some of the things that we learn along the way in finding how we were in balance, first of all, because I think that is the what we learn first, right? Is where is it that we need to make some adjustments, and realizing where we probably are needing to focus our energy on, right? And making some pivots to make that happen so that we are feeling more at peace within ourselves. So yeah. Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you. And in our last talk, we kind of talked about balance in general, the big picture balance. And one of the things that just was really there for me was how balance is really a relationship with myself. I have learned to understand that balance is just a relationship with myself that keeps growing, that keeps expanding, that keeps just showing me the direction. And so, but we're going to talk about how we got here and the sort of different things that we've had to confront and experience and move through and be challenged by and then transform so that we can have even a greater connection with balance. So we're going to look today at was balance really something that I'm supposed to maintain, or is balance my growing capacity to recognize when I have left myself and lovingly return, right? Because balance is not about controlling everything. Balance is about allowing yourself to feel that you are loved, supported in any given moment. And when you have the experiences that may throw you off, that you have the awareness and the capacity to bring yourself back. And so one of the things we're going to talk about today is identities. Right? We formed identities through belief systems. We believe that we had to be a certain way or we had to take on a certain identity. And so part of the journey has been to come across those identities and to see if these identities are still resonating. Are they contributing to my greater sense of balance? Or is there something about this identity that's pulling me away from myself? And so for me, one of those was having to be strong, an identity of having to be strong.
Yeah, having to be strong. That's one that it always hits a chord, right? Because I think we have always been ingrained in like, oh, just be strong, in whatever hardship we're going through, oh, be strong. And it's like, we already are strong. The fact that we're here, right? We made it to this point in our life, whatever we are already strong. We are resilient already. But we create this idea that being strong means, maybe not showing our feelings, maybe staying quiet even though I'm hurting because somebody else needs more support. Maybe it means, sacrificing your needs because we don't feel worthy of it, right? That's another big one. Because somebody else deserves it, kind of like the other one that I said. But being strong it's one that I think a lot of us take on, a lot of women especially take on, because men too, because there's also, I think, with men, there's this situation where they are also have this expectation that they have to be strong too, right? And therefore they don't show their feelings. And we did a whole little, you know, um, survey on men and showing their feelings and how safe they felt. And a lot of them didn't feel safe because of the stigma that is attached to them being sensitive, right? Or being able to express their emotions freely. So so I think in both genders we have this sense of like being strong is the thing to be.
Yes, yes, yes. I agree with you that, there's nothing wrong with being strong and we are already strong, but it's the belief systems associated with what strength means that we're definitely not balanced and we're a lot more focused on the external, like ensuring that things were safe or that by my behavior, um, controlling others through my behavior by being really nice or upset or really, really angry, then that felt like it was providing some type of balance or safety. But we are through this coming home to self, we are realizing that strength is really something else. Strength is something that it's a whole other relationship that we are um, remembering that we have to what strength really is. And to me, strength now really actually also means having the ability and the possibility to stay balanced in no matter what is happening around me. That feels like my new understanding of what strength is. Now, growing up, strength looked like, not sharing your deep thoughts or your deep emotions.
Mhm.
Strength looked like not crying, because it that could be seen as weakness. And not only that, but others really did not have the capacity to hold or be present
Mhm.
with me with those emotions. So it made others uncomfortable. Like being strong to me was taking on the role of provider, the role of the one that would find the solutions to the problems
Mhm. The
at the
fixer.
home, the fixer. So being strong to me had a lot of different branches. And as I have had experiences in life that have shown me very clearly that that was not the direction, um, those experiences have shown up in various ways, mostly uncomfortable ways, mostly ways of like confronting with some sort of messy exchange or some sort of messy interaction with people where when I did self-reflection and I'd come back to owning my own thoughts, my own feelings, my own emotions, I could see the role that I was playing that was behind the exchange. And so through accountability, I had to really decide, is this a role? Is this an identity that is still supporting me?
Yeah, because how do you feel in your body too, right?
Right.
And I think your body definitely is it's a good indicator of how you're receiving or how balanced you are, right? And when you are being the fixer, when you are being the strong one, and you're sacrificing whatever, to be the one, and obviously all these identities were formed out of safety, right? Because we came up with them, or they developed. Because we needed them at some point. We needed to be that person in order for us to be safe, right? Whatever time in our lives. And the question of am I still that? Am I still unsafe? Do I still need to be that? Um, I think is the question that develops, but it is sort of this need, this need to maintain the balance.
Well, yes, we develop those identities for a purpose, and that purpose was the idea that we needed that in order to keep us safe. But do we still need them?
Yes. Do we still need them? So in coming back to the body gives us clues, right? And when we are giving everything and we are the fixer, we're taking on so much, so many tasks that our body's tired, right? Because we maybe are not sleeping, maybe we're not eating well, maybe we are, you know, just going, not giving our body a break. Our body's tired. So our body gives us cues into that. We get sick too, right? We get sick. Maybe we get, heartburn when there's an uncomfortable conversation that didn't land well, or when we are keeping ourselves, something that we needed to say out loud, but we kept it to ourselves. We get sick, okay? Or there's some sort of a physical reaction that happens aside from the emotional reaction. So those are cues for me that I learned to listen to, right? As we are going through this realization of, does this role still serve me? Am I still the fixer? Do I still want to be the fixer? Like, I don't think I want to be, right? And having this question, it's important because the thoughts come, but the body also has a reaction. And starting to listen to your body and what it's telling you, it's going to help you navigate, okay, whether this is a role that still fits you or not.
Yes, the body is your biggest ally. The body tells you you don't even have to get sick. The more you attune to your body, the more awareness you create as to what your body is communicating to you, you can very much feel expansion, contraction. And you will learn you learn through this process to just be really honest with yourself, because that's how you can support yourself best. It helps. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help anyone to not be fully honest. So like if I have an exchange with someone and I start to feel tensing up and I start to feel discomfort and it starts to feel some type of, it's bringing up either some guilt or some criticism, some judgment, that my body is telling me something about me. It's telling the communication is always about self. And so, yes, the body is our greatest ally. It will let us know just based on how we feel. And you will notice that when you engage in meditation or you engage in breath work or you're out in nature, if you attune to your body, your bones, your muscles, your cells, the entirety of your body feels open and relaxed and expansive. And that's you in balance. And so that becomes sort of like your reference point moving forward in support of yourself as to like, am I in balance? Am I not in balance? And it becomes a beautiful play. It's not something like, oh, homework or a task, or it may feel like that at the beginning because it's not something that we're used to doing. But after a while, you just see the results. You see how much more you're in relationship with your body and also the environment, And so it's very supportive to just always have that in mind, that our body is our, greatest ally.
Yeah. Our body, our thoughts definitely, right, drive us into behaviors, or the opposite, right? Like our behaviors also drive us into, it's so connected into what our thoughts are. Like, ooh, should I have done that?
Yeah.
Does that serve me? So they're all great questions, but asking questions, I think, is part of the beginning of the journey to connecting to self, right? You do have to ask yourself, how do you fit in the picture of your role? How do you fit in the roles that you have been um, either assigned, okay, or you yourself have kind of accepted or integrated into your daily life, that in your family roles, right? Your work roles, because it's not just family, it's gonna extend to the rest of the environment. So it's your whole environment, because when you are the fixer, sometimes you're not just the fixer at home, you're also the fixer at work. You're also the fixer in the community. You're also the fixer, in the mommy group or in whatever, capacity you are, because that we have developed that's what brings us value too. Because it's very much tied to safety, but it's also then I think it becomes tied to value.
Yeah, self-worth.
That is my self-worth. If I am doing this, it means I'm a good person, or it means that I'm a great mom or a great employee or whatever it is. Okay, we kind of take that on as part of our value, and we produce to be valued, right? And I think that's something that I've learned too, that I don't need to produce to be valued. I'm already valuable, just like we're already strong. I'm already valuable. And the other stuff that I produce, okay, is not tied to my self worth. But that is a personal journey, right? And you have to come to terms with that too, and accept that people are not necessarily going to like when you start pulling away from being the fixer, because it's very convenient for them for you to be the fixer, because then they don't have to do it, right? It's taken care of. And now it's like, yeah, I'm stepping from being the fixer, now it's in your hands. Like you gotta take care of stuff. And obviously it's gonna disrupt.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. So like we develop these identities from very, very early on for a reason. They were what was being shown, taught to us, in combination with our recognizing, like, oh, this is how I fit in. This is how I have my space in this environment. So it started early on, and it was accepted and probably celebrated, or at least strengthened by the relationship with others around you. And so there was some sort of like unspoken agreement. This is who you are. This is the role that you play. This is how this is how you support us, the bigger group, whether it's immediate family or community or any other groups that are created. And so this is the role you play. And then you attach, like you said, value and self-worth to it, and people are dependent upon you now. And there's a whole lot of beautiful experiences to be had there. But also, as we grow and we start to see our codependence, where we are relying on each other playing these roles, we can begin to see that it doesn't serve anymore. We are holding each other to these roles. We are holding each other to these identities, and we are so much more than that. And so as we start to create the awareness and we begin to see, whoa, wait a minute, this dynamic that served, that was absolutely beautiful and very much appropriate, but now we're like locked in. So like, how do I regain how do I come back to myself? How do I come back to my own balance? How do I give myself permission to become something or someone different? And so that's where you start pulling your energy back, and the boundaries that you create are really for yourself. It may feel that sometimes we use boundaries to like keep other people in line, or to let other people know what we will or we will not participate in. But really, these boundaries are for ourselves, because we are the ones and the only ones that can ever actually choose what we participate and what we allow and what we don't allow. So this is a beautiful part of a process of coming home to self, of coming closer to our inner sanctuary, to our inner balance, and also setting new frameworks, new templates for relationships. Because when we pull out, that's its own journey, right? It takes its own time. We kind of sometimes we pull away, and sometimes we have to be with ourselves to be like, well, then who am I? If I'm not that role, if I'm not that identity, and my self-worth is no longer given up to that, then who am I? So this takes us into this like some deep exploration in a whole other beautiful part of the journey too.
Yeah. And it's a lot of self-reflection. And I think that's what people don't have time for, right? And that's why, it takes longer, I think, for people to get there, for us to get to that realization of like, yeah, I need to make some changes, and then start working on those changes because you do have to sit with your emotions. You do have to kind of reflect and see the emotions that you have about that particular role, the joy that it brings you or not, right? Your role in, like you said, in codependency, in keeping people from owning their own responsibilities. And I think that's something that also kind of shows up when we are taking on the role of caretaker, the role of the fixer. We are now allowing other people to grow. And I don't think we see it that way, right? We see it as we're rescuing, we're actually helping, and it's very much based in this helper role when you are the fixer. But at the same time, yes, you're helping, but you are not really helping. You're hindering the other people that are not stepping up to the plate because we're not letting them, because we are stepping up, right? There's no other volunteers like, here, I can do this too. And we're like, no, I'm going to take care of it. Or we already took care of it without even given the opportunity for anybody to change it, right? So they're not learning things that maybe they need to learn to grow themselves. So it is also kind to others, even though it doesn't look like that on the outside, right? Because that's the codependency piece you're pulling out so that they can now take, accountability, responsibility, and also growth and being able to grow from that experience. Um, but it is a mind shift that you kind of have to have and see it. And again, you have to sit with it. You have to be able to recognize this and ask a lot of questions about yourself, about the relationships, about the role in being able to set healthy boundaries or not setting any boundaries, right? What does that look like? And how are you allowing the other people around you to also step up to the plate so that they can be their own, um, their self worth also rises. Okay. But it is a whole journey, and it's going to take time, and it's going to take that reflection. So I think for our audience is, are you taking the time? Are you willing to take that step? And this is where everything is a choice. You can choose to, right? You have to choose to take the time to look at it, to address it, or you don't, and you continue, right? You continue being that role, but then the balance piece comes in where you are still in imbalance. And what that looks like is it might be resentment because you're fixing everybody's stuff and nobody's doing anything. But then we're not allowing them to step up to the place so they can fix it, and trusting them in doing that, even if they don't do it the way we do it, right? Um, so it is going to take that piece, and it is a choice. And I think for us, it's just inviting you to at least have these thoughts, right? Or have these questions and ask yourself kind of where you are at in your balance for yourself, because it's about yourself. It's not about, you know, how everybody else is treating you. It's about you. How are you treating yourself? It is about us. And how are we treating ourselves first? How are we being kind to ourselves? How are we supporting ourselves? How are we listening to ourselves, to our mind, to our body, right? To our needs, and how are we actually caring and being kind to ourselves in that capacity? And if we're not, those are the questions. How can I make that better? Right? How can I be nicer to myself? How can I listen to my body? How can I be loving to my body or to myself, in a way that I'm not doing it right now? And those are the steps that sort of you start taking to find that balance, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, but there's a lot of roles for sure, that we kind of
Oh,
take on.
there's a lot of roles, and these roles and these identities in this journey of remembrance, um, and aligning with the soul's infinite truth. They will come. They will be served right up because it's part of the support from our higher selves, from the universe. It's supporting us to come into this alignment. So we have that. And so the experiences that arise from seemingly out of nowhere, these are all opportunities. These are all opportunities that have the same goal at the root, which is, can you see yourself? Can you feel yourself? Can you see where you are in this exchange, in this experience? Is there room here for you to release something more so that you can allow yourself to come home even deeper within yourself? And in the same way, releasing those involved so that they also have the opportunity to come home with themselves. We're sovereign beings, and we come here to have the experience of being the badass of our story, not someone else being the badass of our story. And so as we release each other to have that experience, it is love. Love inspires me. I have gone through enough of these type of experiences and of letting go that it is very clear to me, because I can see how this has affected my relationships with my closest family members, with my parents, with my siblings, with my children, with my grandchildren, and it was rocky. It's rocky, and it brings up at the beginning fears that we all have. Can we do it? Can I do it? Is it safe? Like, what does this mean? Does this mean that we're like abandoning each other, that we're no longer going to be in each other's lives? All of these sort of things come up as we make these choices, but really those are just fears. Every single time we come closer. Every single time each of my family members that I am in contact with, that we are kind of sharing this remembrance journey, they allow themselves to embody a version of themselves that feels confident, that feels more safe, that is starting to also see how the universe is supporting them on this journey into deeper balance and deeper relationship with self.
Yeah. But it takes us setting the boundary, right, in order for them to kind of get there. And it's time to, right? It's going to take some time. It's not overnight. But it's making those realizations and taking those steps to, again, to come back to yourself, but taking the steps to set the boundaries that are going to show you love, that are going to show you you're worthy, right, of time. You're worthy of love. You're worthy of saying no. You're worthy of, just resting without guilt. You're worthy of having fun, and that's okay. Um, Even if things are hard, right? Because it's holding the polarities of life too, as you are going through it. So I'm curious, and please put in the comments, because we want to know kind of how are you navigating this? How has it showed up for you? What role is the one that showed up for you first? That you saw, maybe this doesn't fit me anymore. Maybe I can make some changes here to make it better, to not feel so frustrated about it or so resentful or so exhausted. Um, and what did you do, right? Did you ask for help, for somebody to help you out? Did you take some time to rest yourself, just time for you? What did you do to kind of honor that question? Okay, to honor that question and give it the time it deserved to be explored. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. And one of the things that we're saying here too is this coming home to self, this creating this greater, deeper, balanced relationship with self and with life. It's really a beautiful thing. Like, as we set the intention to have awareness and notice the things, notice how we feel, notice the interactions, we're so present to ourselves. We're meeting ourselves, and I believe that at the core, that's what we've always been looking for.
Yes.
To be met, to be seen, to be loved, to be accepted. And this is what we're doing for ourselves.
Yeah, and it starts with ourselves, right? Because we always look for the outside validation, and that's what created those roles, those roles that were
Right.
problematic, right? Because we wanted the safety, but we also wanted the validation that we are worthy of love. Um, and we have to give it to ourselves, right? So coming back to balance, it is truly loving ourselves genuinely and unconditionally in who we are, in what we bring to the table, and what our body looks like. So it is loving on ourselves that is going to get us to that balance. Um, but at the beginning, it's challenging because we don't necessarily know how to do that.
Mm-hmm,
Because
mm-hmm.
we've been used to taking care of everyone else, right? And loving on everybody else. But then it's like, well, I don't know, what does it look like for me to love myself, you know? Um, and we see it very externally too, right? It is the spa, it is, doing all these other things. Yes, it's that, but it's also quiet time. It's also you just sitting with your thoughts. It's also you just sitting by yourself, in nature, going outside and breathing. That it doesn't necessarily mean going to buy something or going somewhere. It really is just you being able to honor your time. And time, I think, is something that I've learned that it because I was always rushing, right? It's always run, 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 run. And finding that stillness, finding that time to just sit with myself, which at the beginning is uncomfortable because you're not used to that. You're busy, right? You get on the phone with somebody, you go and do something in the house, you go take care of something else, but you're not really just being. And it feels uncomfortable, like I need to do something else. Like I should be doing something else. And I'm discovering that I love my me time. I'm like, I love hanging out with myself by myself, um, and just being. But that was a process. It wasn't like that at first. First, it was weird because we're not used to it. Okay. But me sitting in a restaurant by myself or just going out for a walk by myself, like it's just being lost in the woods, I enjoy that. I do enjoy that peace and that a connection with nature, and connection with myself because I mean we're all one, right? But it does bring that sense of peace. But at the beginning, it's unknown, and you don't know necessarily how to deal with it. You know, especially what I think when we have been again taking care of other people, whether mom, if you're a mom or you're a caretaker for an elderly parent or anybody else, it is sort of weird to be alone. Because we don't know what to do with ourselves. We don't know ourselves yet. And that's the thing. We kind of have to start dating ourselves, right? We start getting to know
Mm-hmm.
who we are without that role, without the strong role. Like, who am I? Like, what are my interests? What do I like? And that's what you said. You feel a little bit lost at the beginning, and because you just don't know, right? We have been used to just being busy minded. And when the downtime comes, that's when you get to know yourself and what is it truly that you enjoy? What is it truly that you like to do, you know? But you have to explore and you really have to allow that exploration to happen, whether it is through writing, through journaling, through getting out, right? And nature and just exploring and sitting with the trees or whatever it is, everybody's different. Um, but but it does take that time to sit with ourselves to be able to know ourselves and what is it that we enjoy, what we like, what makes us feel loved. Okay. Um, and it's not necessarily what the TV tells us, okay, or what social media tells us what it looks like. It's not that. It's so much simpler when you come down to it, right? Like it's so much simpler. Sometimes it's just time. But it is a journey to get to the love and get to explore ourselves and get to know ourselves. But that really brings us to balance. It's being able to know. So it's taking that time.
Yeah, and it's not what has been told to us, not even from our intended, parents or family members that were there teaching us about life. This is truly a coming home to yourself. This is truly you stepping into your sovereignty, stepping into being your own authority and being the one that feels through your body and through your own alignment what is true for you, what is not true for you. And that does sometimes, especially at the beginning, can feel uncomfortable because it feels like new territory. It feels like the void. It feels like you no longer have the anchors to the aunties, to the grandmas, or to the mother in the way you had before. And that could feel uncomfortable, but it's really just new. the part that feels uncomfortable is really just that it's something new. But it is something that your inner being knows how to walk you through. So as you sit in that space of a little discomfort, a little bit of the void of the unknown, and you become quiet enough with yourself, that part of you that does know has the opportunity to step forward. And it could just be a feeling of peace. It could just be a feeling of like there's nothing that you need to do right now. And then it could turn into a feeling of like, yes, that's right, this direction. Or it could be a feeling of like, okay, now that you have this space, what do you want to create? And you may get visions of flowers or roses or children, because your spirit is starting to have the space to speak through you clearly, to see through you clearly. And so at that point, not only do you not feel alone, you feel guided, you feel led, you feel truly like your spirit, your soul, your higher self are walking with you. And so that's a beautiful experience worth all of it.
Yes,
You know?
I agree. And yeah, and I think that's what makes it beautiful when you are already at that space where you're connected to yourself. And then because you're connected to yourself, then you're able to connect more deeply, like you said, right, to your own spirit, to source. And you're able to not feel alone. Because at the beginning, it does feel lonely because you are, and it is an alone journey. You know, I've spoken about this before too, because even though we are here with other people, it is a journey, very personal journey that we have to go through because it is our own lessons. It is our own experience. So only we feel what we feel, right? In whatever we're exposed to. So it is an alone journey, and that we have to go within ourselves, not with now not anybody else, but we are the ones that have to do the work of connecting with ourselves. Nobody else can do it for us, So it is sort of an alone journey that you kind of have to go through in order to know yourself and have this connection and have this freedom. Because I think that's what you're talking about is the freedom that comes of letting go of the fear. You know, um, the fear will still kind of show up, but it doesn't longer has that power, right? Because we're not giving it the power because we remember that yes, we're not alone. We are, even though it's an alone journey, we are still connected. We are still guided, by ancestors, by spirit. So it feels beautiful to just be in that space of peace and freedom, freedom from the fear, right? There is no fear. And the emotions will still come. I think the guilt will show up, right? Because that's a big one. When you start setting your boundaries, guilt will show up because he wants to pull you back. Okay. Um, and it's navigating that and recognizing that you're worthy of your boundaries. You self-worth is important. And though that guilt comes, we're gonna just feel it, let it go, and then we're gonna release it because it doesn't serve us as part of the new you, as part of the balanced person. That is gonna throw off the balance, and we have to address it. We can't be blind to it because it comes, so the emotions will surface, but the way that you deal with them is different. And I've noticed that in myself. The way that I deal with the emotions is I receive them, and it's like, okay, I see you, right? I acknowledge it. And then you stay with that and you feel it, and you let it flow. And sometimes it's tears, sometimes it's like you yell, right? Because it's anger that kind of comes through. But it's at a different level. You see it from a different perspective than before. I was very reactionary before. I think I'm definitely not that. My nervous system is definitely a little bit or a lot more calm than it was before. So I'm able to receive that information, even though it's upsetting, it's not causing that reaction anymore. Because I think I'm very connected now with myself. I can feel it, like I am attuned to my body, so I can feel it when it comes. My body has a reaction, and I'm like, "Ooh, okay, I felt that." Um, but then I pause, which wasn't there before.
Hmm.
The pause, it wasn't the pause; it was just okay, and then I would, respond back, right, and it will just go back and forth and not having also the time to then reflect back on the conversation and not owning it. So now it's like, okay, I see it. I see it clearly. Okay. All right. And then having empathy. That's the other piece that comes with it, is having empathy and love for the experience, even though it was hard, even though it was maybe a difficult conversation or it was a difficult boundary to set. I'm able to now sit with it, understand it in a different level because I'm more connected to myself. Whereas before it was very external. So there's still a lot of interference that comes uh, in the way that I will process. Whereas now I'm able to sit just with myself and able to decipher it without the outside input. Or even if the outside input is there, it doesn't matter because I'm fully integrated in myself and I know kind of where I'm at. That makes sense. There is grief involved in this because you do grieve your old you. You grieve the old person that you were, your old identity. Again, because it throws us a little bit of balance when we are trying to find our balance. Because we are not the same person, right? And then even when we take on that role again, it doesn't feel right. When we jump into the fixer, it's like, why did I do that? I don't want to do that anymore. And but we grieve still maybe the connection or the celebration. I'm gonna call it that, even though it's not necessarily like, yeah, you did that, right? Uh, but kind of the attention. Maybe I'll call it attention. The attention that you get from playing that role, and you grieve that because it's like, oh, well, how do I get that now?
Yeah. Can I say something about that? So
Yeah.
I feel like the grief and the emotions that we experience as we sort of like come face to face with these identities and the ways in which they would support our getting along with others, with self and with others, like the stories that are all created. I think it's very complex. I think that it goes way far back also because of the meaning that we
Mhm.
give things. And so that meaning was created long before us.
Yeah.
And so the meaning of what is love? How is love demonstrated? You know, how do you know that I love you? How do I know that you love me? Like how do we show that for to each other? And a lot of that, a lot of the ways in which we related love has intensity and even fighting and even disagreements. It's complex, all of the things that are involved in the emotions that we feel. Therefore, I feel like it's really supportive to just allow grace.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes we'll get the story as to like how this was connected to this or this was connected to that. But even that, it served the purpose, even as it was revealed. It is an access point for something to be revealed. It is an access point for something to be finally witnessed and
Mhm.
released. It is an access point for these all of the complexity of all of that was created in those spaces to just find peace. It got worked out. We found the answer. We found so it's very complex, the emotions that we put into it. And so therefore, like the biggest way that we could support ourselves is to be present to the stories, but also just be present.
Being
Just be
present.
present to
Yes.
it. And it will the codes, the healing, whatever is necessary for all of that, it will come through. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So staying present, I think it's something that is also learned, right?
mhm, mhm.
And it is coming to that sense of peace, that sense of I'm the observer, right? I'm here. I'm gonna watch what's happening and not be so reactionary. And that was also something that it was a process for me to get there, to just be the observer and not be the fixer, not be the one that is going to resolve that, still fix it, right? Resolve the issue or that has to keep the conversation going or that has to come up with a solution, whatever it is. Um, it's just being present and holding the space for that. Kind of for me, like in therapy, like I'm holding the space without judgment. That one's hard, okay? At the beginning, especially when it's something difficult, to just be present and not be judgmental. You are just listening, you're receiving that information, and it's such a different experience. And I'm learning that as I'm navigating my world different. It's such a different experience to be able to just be the observer and then you move on, right, to resolving whatever the issue is. But it doesn't have to be you. The responsibility doesn't fall just on you anymore.
Mm-mm.
Um, and it's that I think that's where the sense of freedom comes, that you kind of release that responsibility by just being the observer. And it takes practice. It takes a lot of practice, but But that is one of the ways that I think that we're able to connect ourselves more with ourselves and be truly present in the moment in mind, body, and spirit, okay, in all three, so that we are able to really have um, a productive whatever we're doing, okay, whether it's work, whether it is a conversation, whether it is being out in nature, okay, it's truly being present in the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So so funny because some of the things that I want to share are I want to share a little bit about my experience. So in my own journey, I have woken up to a lineage that has dormant shamanic um, codes, wisdom, and they have become active through me. And so a lot of the experiences that I have in terms of um, coming face to face with these identities and allowing them to sort of like come to the surface and let me see the role that they were playing, and therefore and also the role that it's no longer appropriate for them to continue. Like I go really, really deep in my explorations. I go deep into lineage. I go deep into like original templates
Mhm.
of what it is to be human. And so in my own personal experience, some of that looks like confronting
Yes.
ancient fears that are part of the collective experience. And so some of the things that I've encountered have been pretty strong in the experience of them. But before that, I had already cultivated enough trust in my own inner sovereignty, my own inner authority, and who I am in connection to the all. So my I am presence had already been established. And so that's what supported me into these deeper journeys of exploration where I'm able to find the parts and the pieces that were left behind in some sort of distortion of disempowerment or of fear. And I bring in that I am presence into those spaces, and I'm able to restore truth, to restore consciousness in those spaces. And so, for example, some of the things that have come up in my own experience when when I realized the entanglement in my relationships with my daughter and my son, for example, I could now clearly see that while that felt supportive a while ago, now it feels like it keeps us all in a box.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so, in order to let that go and knowing the role that I play as mother, which is very powerful.
Yeah.
So, I, as mother, could see it. And I, as mother, said, we're letting go. And in that letting go, I had to encounter long ago fears about what that actually means. And so, part of my experience involved the experience of dealing with fears that sounded like you're abandoning them, you're
Mm-hmm.
letting them go.
Yeah.
Where, is this the end of your relationship? Are they going to be left behind? Are they going to be living in another dimension of awareness where they're still playing out the old dynamics that are entangled and based on fear? Are you now going to be in a different space? Like these are real
Yeah.
experiences that I had to move through, but I could see that they were just fears. And so it was my I am presence that allowed me and guided me with truth.
Mm-hmm.
And so truth was restored in all those spaces, but there was a lot of crying. There was a lot of grief
Yeah.
because those parts of me and those parts that I was able to access through the shamanic connection had to be expressed.
Yeah.
They had to be allowed an opportunity to express what they were holding.
Wow. That's beautiful. And yeah, I feel it too. So for me with my children, right, as I'm going through a separation too, I feel all that came out, right? And for me, I don't have the shamanic experience that you have. But for me, it was just, I felt the grief. And the way I call it is I felt my ancestral grief. Um, and all the same questions, right? Am I being a bad mother? Am I abandoning the children? But they were all, knew in myself that that was not the case, right? Because I was very purposeful. And the reason why the separation needs to happen, um, and also, like we were talking about sovereignty and letting people stop being codependent and letting people kind of step up to the plate. Our children too also have things that they have to learn in this journey. And going deep in sitting with yourself, and that's sort of kind of how that happened for me, is being able to sit with myself, have these questions come up, because they do come up. And they come up around those times. Okay. Sometimes when you're driving, sometimes, I was at the beach with my sister, and that's where sort of like all this stuff gets hit. Okay. All the emotions sort of come. And I was like, what is this? Why I'm at the beach, I'm relaxing, I'm good. Why am I feeling all this sadness? Right. All this sadness is coming through, and all the memories of my kids when they were younger, all this stuff is sort of coming through, but I needed to see it. So it's coming through because I needed to see it, I needed to process it, not just for me, but for my lineage, for all my women, right, before me, that came before me, that endured and that were not able to do what I'm doing, which is loving on myself, and having the time and the capacity to be able to do that, because they couldn't. And those fears were real for them. Okay. Um, so for me, those fears that came up are not necessarily mine, because I'm clear minded in kind of why this is happening and that my kids are okay, because they are, you know. So they were not real fears. But regardless, I have to look at them to let them go, to be able to validate them and let them go. And that's what I did, right? Like I said, I validate that. That must have been so hard. And I'm sorry that you couldn't do what I'm doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
In choosing my peace, in being able to see kind of what my needs are and speaking up and using my voice, and setting healthy boundaries. They couldn't do that. It wasn't within their world, okay, that they couldn't do. So I had to grieve that too. I have to grieve that for them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that sadness and that grief is that pain, because it's emotional pain, is real. So yes, there is a lot of crying. And that takes time. You have to sit with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to sit
Mm-hmm.
with the emotion, but allowing those emotions to flow looks like letting the thoughts come, kind of seeing them, validating them, going and exploring, well, where is this coming from? Because I don't think it's coming from me. But having the capacity to even see that, right? I had already sat with myself for a while and being confident in my decision. Whereas if I wasn't, definitely those would have been, that's what I talked about. You have the outside influence. That was going to be outside influence, not even from the present, but from my lineage, from way back when, um, that were intrusive and that were trying to keep me safe, because that's the intention, right? Keep me
Mm-hmm.
safe, and keep my children safe. But these are different times, and my experience right now is different. So I'm able to see it in a different way, but also make different choices, that are still safe, because I'm in a safe environment, right? I'm able to make those choices that they weren't able to make. Um, but it is not just the stuff that we have to clear. We have to clear, our lineage stuff too, because that will come up as we are exploring and finding
You'll
our
know
path.
if you volunteered for that. You will know. And I have to share that when having those experiences that felt very dramatic about letting them go and what that might mean, and my I am presence being there with me. I didn't know, Maria, did not know what that would look like in the physical form. How would their lives unfold? But I knew inside that it was this with love, allowing them, releasing them to be their full sovereign selves, to be the most beautiful expression of their soul here on earth, and to know that they have everything within them, that they don't need to be attached to me or anyone else in order to know that and to live that truth. It works. Like, I have seen both of my children go through their own version of the dark night of the soul in finding themselves and coming home to themselves as well. And now they have such a beautiful, powerful relationship with themselves that it is just like, I see it, it's just moving them through life now. But they're not experiencing, feeling lost or feeling like they're not safe to live. And so I have seen it come, full circle, and we continue on this journey, and we will continue to have challenges that support us, even coming home um, more to ourselves. But it works. The fears are just fears.
Yeah. The fears are just fears, and that's okay. They will come up, and then we just again just process them. Like, okay, you're there. I see you. But we don't let them now have control over our life, right? We're still driving the bus. We still the ones that decide what's going to happen. But yeah. So I think we can wrap it up for this one. Unless there's something else that you kind of wanted to touch on before we.
No, I think that we've shared a lot. Thank you for listening, and see how this might support your own relationship with yourself. Trust that it is safe for you to reveal to yourself, these identities or these ways in which, may no longer be supporting you, so that you could transform them and you could see yourself on the other side and experience even greater freedom, love, self acceptance, and liberation. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. See you in the next one.